Let's pause for a minute to talk about Anchor by Spotify. Anchor is an easy to use, one stop shop to create and host your podcast. When we started making Sleeping with the Numbers, we used other hosts first that forced us to manually upload to Apple Music, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. But with Anchor, you simply upload to a single spot and it distributes it automatically to all of these locations. But that isn't all. With Anchor, you can easily record, edit, and even add music directly from Spotify to your podcast to make it sound even better. So if you've been waiting around to create a podcast, wait no longer, because Anchor by Spotify makes it extremely easy to do. Anchor is completely free and can be used by downloading the mobile app on iOS or Android, or even right from their website, anchor.fm. Make an account today and get podcasting.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
All right, hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Dylan here, and I am sorry I've missed you for a couple weeks. Have a lot of stuff going on here at home. We had to move, so been busy with that, and then had to fly back home. All that good stuff. Either way, it doesn't matter. I'm here now. Let's talk about our picks, how the model's performing, how we performed over the season. We only have 3 more games. Conference championships coming up. We have the Eagles against the Niners, a massive defensive battle that it's a close one. It really is. I'll get into what I think happens later, but I see that as a close matchup, an even closer matchup, and kind of different than the NFC because I think it's more offensive powered than defensive powered, and that's Kansas City against the Cincinnati Bengals, who looked dominant against the Buffalo Bills last week. So we are going into these conference championships, very, very tight matchups here, making it a little difficult to bet on. But hey, that's what makes it fun. Again, always be smart. Don't bet with money you don't have. Make wise decisions when betting. Don't take overjuiced odds. We kind of set a line here at minus 200. Don't really want anything less than that. Reason being, the odds just aren't worth it. Sure things aren't real in the sports betting world. When you have the Buffalo Bills minus 1,000 against, Jacksonville or someone like that, that isn't guaranteed. Things happen. Things get really weird. And if they lose that, you're out your entire wager. And if they win, you get a very, very small return. So it is not worth making those bets. Just a reminder going forward, that's not just with football, that's with any type of betting. So just a reminder there. But today's episode, probably shorter. We don't have that many games to look at here. And pretty soon we're just going to be checking out the NFL draft and thinking and guessing who's going to go where, how that's going to impact the teams, how that's going to impact fantasy. We're getting into that part where, maybe we have about a month off or so, and then the draft and off-seeding conversations really start heating up. Pretty much everything between now and then is just speculation. So I don't like getting into too much of that news. People just are like, yeah, Bijan's going to go to Houston, even though they already have a guy there, but he'll go there. They're trying to get clicks. That's really all it is. We're not trying to do that here. So I'm not going to try to bring up nonsense like that. It's not time for that. We need combine to happen. We need pro days to happen. Then that's when we start getting some real news out that we can actually start making informed predictions, which is what we do here. For God's sakes, we have a machine learning model that's the only thing it does. It makes informed decisions. There's no biases at all. So let's start it off with just performance for the season so far. If we start with our bets, well, I'll just cover mine here since Pat isn't here at the moment, and I don't want to speak for him. But for the season up until now, week 1, through the divisional matchups. My money line correctness, again, this is not bets. We do not take every pick we make as a bet because of what I said just a few minutes ago. Sometimes the odds aren't there. Sometimes we're not confident enough, but we're forcing ourselves to make a pick here. Really for content, but we do let you know, hey, we're not really confident in this pick, or hey, these odds suck. Don't take that bet. We say that pretty often here on the show. However, if for some reason you trust us enough to take all of our bets, all of our picks, you made some money. If we look at the my money line pick percentage, I went 179 and 100. That is a correct percentage of 64.16%. So pretty good there. And maybe what's more important is we convert that to the correct odds to tell you if you took all of the bets, a certain amount of odds or less, you made money. So let's do that conversion really quickly. All right, so we had win percentage or implied probability of 64.16. That would be if you took all of my picks at minus 179 or better, you made some money. And that's about where we say to make those picks, around that minus 200. So it's likely if you followed all of those bets, you made some money. So good on you. For the spread, I actually do have unit amounts here. So because the spread, it's always minus 110. I shouldn't say always. For the most part, it was always minus 110. All of the bets we've taken, they've been minus 110. That's just kind of the industry standard, it seems, across the board, no matter where you bet. But for that, I went 152 and 122. So that's a win percentage of 55.47%. Now, again, we know I just said American odds are generally 110 or minus 110 for spreads and over-unders. That's an implied probability of 52.4%. Again, what does that mean? That means if you take every single bet you possibly can at minus 110, you need to be correct 52.4% of the time to break even. If you do better than that, you're going to profit. And we did. I was 55.47% correct throughout the season so far. And that would have resulted in a 16.32 unit profit. And that's with betting one unit, whatever your unit is. Mine is generally $10. So if we convert my units to dollar amounts, it's $163.20. So not bad, not terrible. Profit's profit. I'm pretty happy about that. Over under is where I did the worst. There were some weeks here. Like, let's look at the stretch from week 8 to week 12. I was just awful. Under 50% that entire time. Really, really bad time. During that, I don't know what was going on. That's around where bye weeks are, where injuries are really prevalent. So that could be a factor. It could also be I'm just bad at over-under picks. That's also very possible. So if that is the case, I apologize. Maybe don't follow me for those, but I'm still going to give my thoughts. And hey, we made a profit. So I was 149 and 130 for my win-loss on over-unders. That's a win percentage of 53.41. And guess what? That's over that 52.4% break-even percentage. So there's a profit there. With 1 unit bets, you would have profited 5.59 units. Again, my units are generally $10. So that's $55.90. So again, profit's profit. I'm happy with this. Profit all around for the season. So if you've been listening, if you've been tailing, good on you. We made some money this season so far. I don't think we can screw it up, with only 3 games left. Actually, no, it's mathematically impossible for us to not make a profit, even if we got every bet incorrect. Again, with 1 unit bets. If we did something crazy like 100 unit bet, yeah, we can fuck ourselves. Or even 10 unit bets. But we do 1 unit bets on this show. So cool. That feels good. I'm glad I've been tracking this on just a little Google sheet. Have all the math set up here, so it's been calculating it for me as we move on. Next season, I'll calculate actual unit profit loss for the money line for our picks next time, just because that's kind of nice to know. The win percentage is good, but I like seeing things in real dollars. So next season, that is what we'll do. But let's look at the model performance. So the model started making picks at week 5. That means it took the first 4 weeks as inputs to kind of make its predictions about the teams. So from week 5 to now through the division conference, the model only makes moneyline picks and spread picks. It does not do the over-under. It did a very poor job at doing that, so we just stopped. Pretty similar to my picks. I also had more opportunities, so maybe it's not an apples to apples comparison, but the model did beat me on the... Oh, no, it didn't. Nope, I beat the model both money line and spread. Haha. But the model went 127 wins, 72 losses for the money line since week 5. That is a win percentage of 63.82%. And if we convert that to odds, 63.82, about the same as what it was for me. If you took all of its picks at minus 176 or better, you made profit. For the spread, it was right 108 times and wrong 89 times for a percentage of 54.82%. And what did we say before? If it is over 52.4%, you make a profit. So if you followed every pick the model made on the spread, you made some profit there. And just to go through the model's picks, even though we haven't done the show, we've been posting the picks on Twitter. If you follow us there, and of course they're also on Action Network, which is probably the better place to follow it, because you get to see the exact odds and everything we take it at, and it will even tell you if you can get better odds, on a different book than we take. For the most part, we use the consensus odds on Action. We do that because there's like that little verified toggle, and it kind of... That's how it scores you. If you're making your verified picks and you do well, you get a higher score up on the leaderboards and stuff. Your unverified picks are not counted towards that. And that makes sense, right? You don't want people just kind of going in and boosting up their picks to make themselves look good. So we tend to stick with the verified picks. Sometimes I get them in late. I'm never going to lie with the model picks. That's stupid. The model, it's going to be right or wrong, and all I can do is fine-tune it the best I can to make these picks and give you my thoughts on the model's picks as we move throughout the season. But I'm never going to lie. If the model has a shit week, you're going to know about it. If I have a shit week, you're going to know about it. That's not the purpose of this show. We need to be truthful, because the fact is, when you are gambling, you lose. That just facts. We can give you as much insight as we can. We can do all the mathematical model creations we want. There's a good factor of luck. So we cannot always be right, and I want that truth to be known for anyone following this. People who are like, oh, I'm the best sports bettor, I'm a professional. Even the professionals lose. So please keep that in mind. Don't think everyone's always winning. That's just a lie. But let us get into these picks for the conference championships. All right, starting with the first matchup, the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles are currently 2.5-point home favorites minus 150 on the money line with an over-under of 46.5 points. This, as I said kind of early on and alluded to, is going to be a super defensive matchup, I believe. I think what is going to happen here is going to be a low-scoring game, and whoever's offense can get, maybe it's a lucky break or they find a hole in one or the other's defense. That's not going to be an easy thing to do, but if they can do that, that is what is going to win the game. This is going to be highly difficult. You have Jalen Hurts, who I would imagine everyone is going to argue is the better quarterback, as I would as well. But Brock Purdy has been doing something special. From going from Mr. Irrelevant to an NFC championship team, well, in it, haven't won. But if they are going to pull through, they need all of their weapons in full force. Christian McCaffrey has not been practicing this week. He's going to play, it sounds like, but at what percentage is he going to be at? And arguably, a 50% Christian McCaffrey is better than most people at 100%. So he's going to play, but I think we might see a good bit of Elijah Mitchell as well if the injury is actually a worry. Now, you have to go all out in these games. You cannot, put on the kid gloves and hope you win. When you're in the playoffs, you lose, you're out, obviously. So you cannot afford to keep your best player off the field. Christian McCaffrey is their best player. They have a lot of good players, but McCaffrey is the best player. So they're going to need to get Debo more involved. They're going to need to get Kittle more involved. Ayuk. And like I said, Elijah as well. So it's going to be a very, very close matchup. On the Philadelphia side of the ball, we saw what the Eagles could do against the Giants. The Giants looked like a good team after beating the Vikings, who, the Vikings, very high-powered offense. And the Giants were able to shut them down. Now, that loss was really a lot more on the Vikings defense not being able to do a damn thing. But just the fact that they came in afterwards, played the Eagles, and the Eagles absolutely shut them down, wiped the floor with them, that proves just how good the Eagles are. And the Eagles have two number one wide receivers. Everyone was under the impression as soon as they went out and got A.J. Brown, he was just going to be the dude, and, Devonta Smith might kind of fall into the background. That's not the case at all. I would argue, if I'm a fantasy player, I want Devonta a bit more than A.J. Brown. Now, Standard League, maybe it flips, but any type of PPR, Devonta has been getting the work, and he has been doing work. So I think with that, they're going to have a lot of places to go with the ball. Their running game is going to have a tough time. They like to rotate running backs, kind of like how Shanahan likes to do it. But Sanders, Boston Scott, Gainwell, they're going to be rotating in and out, and I don't think any of them really do much. If they're going to do work, it's going to be in the passing game, and I would be willing to bet that Hurts might have the most rushing yards for the Philadelphia Eagles in this game. That makes sense to me, because if the Niners' defensive front can get to Hurts quickly, Hurts is going to take off. There will be times where he can get a quick ball out, but he can take off. He has the legs to do that. But then, of course, the worry comes, running too much, injury. But it doesn't matter. You're going all out in this game. Neither one of these guys wants to go home, even though Philadelphia is home for this matchup. It's going to be a really, really good day of football on both sides. People are going to be maybe a little more upset at this NFC game because I do not believe there's going to be a lot of scoring. And it's going to be a technical battle between these two coaches. Going to be really interesting to watch. For maybe more casual fans who are just kind of looking for that over to hit, maybe you don't have that good of a time watching this game. But I'm excited for it. So let's make picks here. For this matchup, I will be taking Philly to win and cover. I think the edge in offense goes to Philadelphia with some banged up pieces on the San Francisco side. I think San Francisco has the better defense overall, but it is insanely close. And the edge has to come somewhere, and I think that edge is going to come on the offensive side of the ball for Philly. And it's only a 2.5 point spread. I'm taking them to win and cover, and as you can probably expect, I'm taking the under 46.5 points. I do expect this to be a defensive matchup. The model is going to... Oh, there we go. I moved my tabs around for some reason. The model, taking Philly to win and cover, but only barely. It has Philly winning by 3 points. So if that gets any larger in the spread, maybe do not take that pick, or that bet rather. But model is going to be taking Philly to win and cover. And again, probably the more exciting matchup, hopefully, is the AFC conference between Cincinnati and Kansas City. Cincinnati coming in hot after a good game against Buffalo where they just never stepped off the gas. I want to, let's take a little side talk here about fantasy football. I had Joe Mixon this season for fantasy. It wasn't fun. He often disappointed, but he had that one massive game that made him look really, really good. Don't believe that going forward. And I think it's the same case for last week. There is a reason Joe Mixon looked very good last week, and that was because since he was able to get up early and they stayed on top. And when they stay on top, they like to hand out the ball, burn out that clock. And that's why Joe Mixon got a ton of work last week. Let me see just how many touches he got last week against... No. Postseason. All right. Last week against Buffalo, he had 20 rush attempts and 3 targets. So 23 total opportunities. That's pretty high. If we go and look at his whole regular season, he hit over 20 rush attempts twice. Once against Miami and once against Carolina, that massive game where he got 4 touchdowns and 153 yards. Again, we look at the score of that game and how that game went. They blew Carolina out of the water. They were already in the lead and were just running out the clock. That's when he gets his work, and that's exactly what happened last week. So if you're thinking of relying on Mixon this week, I don't believe you're going to have a great time, because I don't think the Bengals are going to be able to pull ahead of Kansas City. Now, that could probably have been said against Buffalo, but we have to play the probabilities here, and that's what we're doing. The odds suggest, or the spread suggests, this is supposed to be a close game. The Kansas City is only favored by 1.5 points. So we have to trust the process. So maybe stick away from Joe Mixon this game if you're still doing fantasy or any sort of like DFS lineups, but focus on the pass catches for Cincinnati. If this needs to be a back and forth game, it's going to be them making the impact. Mahomes coming into this game injured, which probably explains why the over-under dipped. It opened up at 52.5 points, I believe. And now it is at 48. So minus 120 on the money line, even money for the Bengals, a 1.5 favorite, home favorite for the Chiefs, over under set at 48 points. Mahomes is going to play. He's going to play through this injury. Again, I can't say it enough, and I sound like a broken record, and you're like, well, no shit, Dylan. You don't need to tell us this stuff, but it really is important. These teams are going to go all out. It doesn't matter how injured they are. They're going to play until they can't anymore in the playoffs. That's just their mindset. Is it the right play? Would it be better to sit Patrick Mahomes? Probably not. But there might come a point in the game where his injury is just hurting the team more than it's helping them. And there's that doctor on YouTube that I follow, and I am horrible for not remembering his name because I want to give him some credit. Let me pull him up real quick. But he always does great analysis. Brian, oh boy, Sutter. Either way, that's his name on YouTube. YouTube will correct you and send you to his correct page. But he said it was a bad idea for him to play through that injury. It gives him some time to heal up, but he could have got hurt a lot more, and maybe enough to kick him out of this game. There's, again, only so much you can play through, but they're going to do it until the very end. Given that, Vegas still expects it to be a close game, even though they think it'll be a little bit lower scoring. And I tend to agree. I'm taking the under here as well. I should probably point out how often the under has hit in comparison. Because it's been a lot this season. So let me take a moment here to look that up. Okay, so according to covers.com, all games this season, 55.8% of them went to the under. And what were we saying earlier? The over-unders are almost always at minus 110 odds, which means the break-even percentage is 52.4%, meaning you have to do better than that in order to make a profit. So if you bet the under on every game this season, you would have been correct 55.8% of the times, which is profit. So again, the under tends to be the right bet most of the time. Why is this? Because people like taking the over. It's more fun. It's way more fun. But it's harder to get over the score than under, right? It's harder to score than not. You start the game under. So while Vegas does a very good job setting those lines, again, if we look at statistics, math, all that stuff, obviously Vegas is doing that as well, but they do it a little different. They're not trying to be correct. They're trying to make money. So, so if you took the under all season, you would have made a profit. So I'm taking the under for this game as well. If Mahomes was healthy, I'd probably still take the under. If I look at the Chiefs, let's see here. The Chiefs are usually, there we go. The Chiefs are almost always in high total games. However, they've only hit the over 8 times. This is for the regular season. No, it's not. That's overall. They've played 18 games. They've only hit the over 8 times, 44.4%. The under 10 times, 55.6%. And that happens a lot with these, what you think about a team. When you think Kansas City, you think high scoring. When you think Cincinnati, you think high scoring. When you think Philadelphia, San Francisco, those strong defensive teams, you think low scoring. And there's that trend, right? So Kansas City, their unders have hit more because the bar is set pretty high for their games because they're expected to score a lot. For Philadelphia, their over has hit more because they generally come in with a lower setting, a lower bar, a lower over-under. And it's easier for them to hit it. So just an interesting thought process to go through here. The model will also be taking Kansas City to win and cover. A reminder about the model. The model has no idea about injuries, has no idea that Mahomes is banged up, knows nothing about that. It doesn't care about hot streaks. It doesn't care about how Cincinnati looked against Buffalo. All it cares about is seeing the stats, how their offense has run, how their defense has performed, how their offense has performed against what a defense has allowed. It doesn't know about injuries. So keep that in mind. So it does have Cincinnati or Kansas City winning by 4.44 points. Obviously, you can't really bet fractions like that, but it is more than the 1.5 that Vegas is setting it at. So model is taking Kansas City to win and cover. I'm going to do the opposite. I think the Bengals look very good, and they are on a streak. They're not as banged up as the Chiefs are, and if they are, it's not at as important positions. Quarterback, most important position. Cincinnati is also 5-1 against the Chiefs in their past 6 games. If we look at the percentage of bets, 56% on the Chiefs. Percentage of money, 63% on the Chiefs. For the money line, for the point spread, it's the opposite. People are taking the Bengals. And really what that tells me is they don't know. They don't really know what to expect. I know when I make my picks to kind of cover my ass, I'll do the same thing. I'll take the favorite in the money line, but then the dog in the spread. Just to kind of cover both ends here. It's going to be another really good matchup. Kelsey could go off and do Kelsey-like things. Both of these teams haven't lost in a long time. They've won their last 5 games. It's going to be a very good matchup, but if I have to pick a side, I am going to take the Bengals. I think they are a more well-rounded team on offense. There's not spikes in the talent on certain positions. Mixon is probably as good as Chase talent-wise. Who gets the ball more is a good question. Chase, obviously, the younger guy and the more go-to guy for Joe Burrow, unless, of course, they're winning. But on the other side of the ball, the Chiefs obviously have a massive spike in talent at the tight end position. They're pretty low on the wide receiver side, but it also hasn't really mattered with Patrick Mahomes. The running back game, Pacheco and McKinnon. On paper, you look at these guys and you're like, who's more talented? Either of those guys or Joe Mixon. I think the right answer to that is Joe Mixon, but Andy Reid knows what he's doing, a great offensive mind. He can get these guys to work, even though they may not be the most talented players. So I do think the talent, the cumulative talent, lies with the Bengals. So again, where the NFC game might come out to who has an edge on offense, because the defenses are pretty equal, this one might come out to the opposite. Someone might need to have an edge on defense to win, because these offenses can be pretty equal. Even though the Bengals are, I believe, a more well-rounded team, and Kansas City has spikes at the quarterback and the tight end position, where they're a little lower on the running back and the wide receiver position, that can be effective, right? Because if you cover the right players, if they just double Kelsey all game long, which they should, it leaves Juju open. Maybe MVS is open. But those guys are not nearly as scary as Travis Kelsey getting the ball. So maybe the Bengals welcome that. Yeah, give Juju the ball. Let him get 3 yards a catch, rather than Kelsey taking chunks of the field away every time he grabs the ball and is an end zone threat always. Bengals have more options on offense. So very, very interesting game. I'm, again, super excited for this one. We're blessed to have a good matchup like this on both sides of the conferences. So I'm taking Bengals win and cover under 48 points. Model taking Kansas City to win and cover. We'll see who is correct, but that's where we're going to end it. Shorter show today, not as much to talk about, not as many games. Best of luck this weekend if you are betting in any shape or form. Sports betting, DFS, show me your picks. Not dick pics. Don't send me those, please. Go on Twitter. I've been posting some of these like free lineups that DraftKings has been doing. I just kind of post things up there. I won like $1 the last time, which, for free, that's infinite amount of profit. So go me. But I throw my picks up there on Twitter, SWTN_podcast on Twitter. Same thing on Action Network. If you want the model, it's SWTN_models. You can also follow me at Fantasy, PYANTASY, both on Twitter. I'm not really active on Twitter, but Action Network, you can check me out there. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page, Sleeping with the Numbers. You just pop it in the search. We'll pop up. We have a fantasy football guessing game on iOS and Android. Give that a check. It's pretty fun. Probably needs to be updated here pretty soon, but it is based on last year's stats. We can probably get into this year's stats as well as the fantasy season is over. If you're looking to do some prop betting, Monkey Knife Fight is an easy way to do it. Check out our link. If you are a first-time user, you get your first deposit match instantly up to $100. You pop in $100, you now have $200 to bet on these conference games, or maybe hold that for the Super Bowl. Bet it all on that. That's not advice. That's just an option you can do. I don't recommend betting all your money at one time. That's a bad idea. But that'll end the show. Thank you for tuning in, and we will check you out next time talking about Super Bowl, and then pretty soon talking about the NFL draft. We will see you later.